The biblical kings and prophets envisioned the temple as a house of prayer for all nations. Right now, it's only a house of prayer for Muslims. Jews and Christians are forbidden from praying where Jesus prayed. Our guest today, David Kiern, is a filmmaker whose passion is to see disciples of Jesus kindle a love for Israel and a passion for the Temple Mount. His newest film, I Am Israel, The Mountain of the King, comes out on May 25th, and he's here to tell us all about it.
Put your hand in mine together. We will walk in harmony. Let me introduce you to my teacher, the rabbi from the Galilee.
You're listening to Messiah Podcast, where Jesus is Jewish, and that changes everything. Messiah Podcast is a production of First Fruits of Zion. Create a free account at ffoz.org to start exploring the Jewish foundation of your faith and receive a free book from our store. Well, all the way from Nashville, Tennessee, our guest today is David Kiern. David, welcome to the Messiah Podcast.
Brother Jacob, hello, sir. Glad to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you on. For those out there who are not familiar with your name or your work, take this opportunity to tell everyone who you are and sort of what you do.
Yeah, sure. David Kiern is my name. Live in Nashville, Tennessee, with my wife, 3 little boys. Everybody's about to have a birthday to be 4, 6, and 8. And
Wow.
I've been in the film world since I've been kind of like a 13-year-old here in Nashville.
Wow.
And did a number of documentary films. Especially, I love doing films overseas and telling stories about what God is doing in the earth right now through real people. And the I Am Israel movies got kickstarted a number of years ago, and I can get into that. But that's essentially what we do now. Is we have a brand, we have a company that makes films in Israel, as well as all sorts of other products that allow people, believers from all over the world, to be connected to the land of Israel.
Nice, very good. And now you've we want to talk about that. We want to talk about I Am Israel and I Am Israel 2. But I wanted to ask about a previous project that you did. Did you shoot a music video with Michael W. Smith?
I did. So here's the crazy thing. You would think so. Michael W. Smith is unbelievable, and I grew up with his family. His son Ryan is close to my age, and he's a filmmaker. And actually, his other son Tyler Michael Smith is one of our music arrangers on the movie sequel. So I've known them for such a long time, and we used to run around making videos and things when we were all kids. But so I did this music video for Michael in Israel right after I'd shot the first I Am Israel movie. We were still editing the first movie, and in the meantime, I got to do this music video. And it was cool because the Israeli Ministry of Tourism sponsored it, because I knew somebody over there. I called him up and I said, isn't it weird that, I live in Nashville, Christian musicians all over the place. And I said, isn't it weird that the gospel music industry, the Christian music industry, like nobody films music videos in Israel? And I was like, you would think that every Christian artist would have at least one music video, at least one in Israel, but it just really wasn't the case. And so I kind of told them that, and I said, Michael is like the number one guy. Wouldn't it be cool to have him come over, and maybe y'all could sponsor it? And so that's what happened.
Nice. I didn't realize that you like knew this guy. That's really cool. I grew up like in high school. I remember listening to his music, and
yeah.
So that's neat. That's neat. Wow. You're in with like Christian music royalty there. So.
Yeah, it's Nashville, It's
I guess
God he planted me here as a little kid so I could grow up. And it's cool to be able to see. I think for an artist, I think it's important to be able to be around other artists that make either a normal living, being creative. Because when you're a kid, I don't know if it's like this anymore, but when you're a kid, people sort of think that art is a hobby. and not a business or not a career or anything. But growing up in Nashville, you're just around all sorts of people, whether they're famous or not, that are doing creative things and supporting their family doing creative things. So I think that was a blessing that God had me planted here as a little kid.
Yeah. Praise God. That's cool. I've been down there a little bit. I went, but I haven't really explored the texture of Nashville. Maybe sometime in the future I'll have to come down and visit everybody. So let's talk about I Am Israel 2, subtitled The Mountain of the King. This is your new film, and it's coming out in mere days. It's coming out on May 25th. What's what is that, just when it'll be done, or is that a significant date?
It's Jerusalem Day, and we actually released the first movie on Jerusalem Day as well a number of years ago. But Jerusalem Day, which is the anniversary of the 1967 victory, where the Jewish people were essentially reestablished in Jerusalem. And so on that day in Jerusalem, on that day there'll be so many young people in the streets with blue and white flags, and it's essentially this amazing celebration. When I found out that there was a thing called Jerusalem Day years ago, I was like, whoa, this has got to be like the coolest day. What a great holiday, Jerusalem Day. I think everybody should celebrate Jerusalem Day. So, but it hadn't been around so long, only since 1967 or 68. So that's sort of the day that we want to honor, because the new movie is all about it's specifically about Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. The first movie, we were able to tell a really beautiful story about the entire land of Israel through a number of different characters. And so you have our Golan Heights cowboy that represents that region, and we have our the best painter in Israel, Alex Levine. He represents the coastal region. So we were able to tell stories and tell the story of the land through these individual characters, and the rebirth of the land and what God's done in the land in these last just few generations. But the second movie is so specifically just about the Temple Mount, Mount Zion, and the city that surrounds it, of course, Jerusalem. So, yeah.
It is the mountain known throughout antiquity as the place where heaven meets earth. Located at the crossroads of 3 continents and elevated above the city of Jerusalem, it is called in the Bible the center of the world.
I really want to set out to follow the footsteps of the children of Israel from the Exodus out of Egypt and follow that path that they took into the land of Israel, where the final resting place of God was.
In I Am Israel, we took you on a soaring journey through the entire land of the Bible. Now we invite you back for a great adventure.
Looking good, John. Tell us what you see.
Sometimes you gotta get out from behind the desk to find the truth, to find the history. We need to search out where the glory of God has traveled the earth.
The Israelites on their journey would have been walking right through here.
This is probably the most important biblical sites in Israel and archaeological discovery.
Something started at Mount Sinai, but it's no longer there. It journeyed on to the ultimate place that God wanted to choose.
My dream for the Temple Mount is for all the nations of the world to be able to come, join together, and pray to God on that mountain.
My dream for the Temple Mount is to enter and to serve God through music.
I have a dream that one day I'll take my young sons and my daughter and my wife up to the Temple Mount to serve God together as a family. There's something about God's holy mountain that unites us. And that's my dream, is that we will collectively as a people come together as one and serve the King.
The Bible doesn't only have stories about the past. The Bible also has stories about the future.
There is a place where God is. He's opened his doors. He said, come meet me here.
Over and over again, the scriptures say that God has placed his name in Jerusalem. On Zion is where his name dwells. from above, if you look down at Jerusalem, God's name is imprinted, stamped into the hills.
Now is the time for mankind to understand that redemption is happening. The words of the prophet are becoming a reality.
Explore the mystery. Discover the majesty. And feel the power of the very heart of Jerusalem.
I am Israel.
I am Israel.
I am Israel.
Cool. So how did you get into this? Like, how did the first project, the first I Am Israel come about? That was back in 2017, right?
It was a friend of mine who's a business executive. We're buddies. He's a little bit older than me. He had enjoyed some of the other international documentaries that I had made. So we would hang out and we would talk about things. And I'd finished this film that I made in Africa. And a few weeks later, he called me up and he said, David, God told me to go to Israel and to bring you with me. And I said, listen, if that's what God said, that sounds great. Let's do it. I'll go. So we went. He had really briefly met a family that was working over there, a Christian family called the Waller family.
We had some Wallers on the podcast.
You have. I know Josh was on your show a little while ago. And so I didn't know them, but he said, this is great. They're Christians. They work in the middle of Israel meaning Samaria. And I didn't understand Judea, Samaria at that moment in my life, but they work with the Jewish farmers and they're going to host us. So I said, great. So we went over and spent about a week. Probably about 10 days over there. Any trip to Israel is great, but this was unique in the fact that we weren't really touring. We would see sites because we would go meet people. So every day, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Tommy Waller, which is their father, he had this schedule of like, well, we're going to go meet this person, we're going to go meet that person, and so it's just this amazing thing. I was just totally along for the ride. I wasn't really filming anything. I was taking stills, but I wasn't filming anything. But I was just trying to open my mind to see if there was anything that we felt like maybe God wanted us to do there. And we kept running into this. There was two things that happened that really woke me up in terms of the whole Israel story. We would meet all these people from northern Israel, from southern Israel, from Hebron, from Jerusalem, all over the place. So they weren't necessarily connected with each other, all these individual Jewish men and women, but they're all were so excited to tell me their personal story about how either they came to Israel, their daddy came to Israel, or their granddaddy came to Israel. And so they were this word that I learned over there, which is Aliyah. They were all telling their family's Aliyah story. And after this happened so many times in the middle of this trip, so everybody was telling me the same thing. I realized that verse that Jeremiah repeats twice in the book, which is no longer, are you guys going to talk about coming out of Egypt and how I brought you out of Egypt? But there's going to come a time where you're going to tell the stories about how I brought you from the north and the south and the east and the west. And I told my friend Lance, we're literally hearing this. What Jeremiah said is like happening in front of our eyes. And I bet you the guy tomorrow that we're going to go meet tomorrow is going to tell us the same story. So it just happened over and over and over and over and over. The other eye-opening thing as a filmmaker, as a visual thing, we went to northern Israel and crested the hill that goes up onto the Golan Heights, and the land just spread out in front of us. And it was so green, unbelievably green. Everything was so lush. And it was absolutely beautiful. But it also struck me on this spiritual level of, it seems like enemy forces, let's just say, are trying to show every image that comes out of Israel is like a place that you would never want to go to. It's dusty. There's no life. It's just conflict. And we went up there and it looked like Kansas, or it looked like parts of where I live, Middle Tennessee. It was springtime when we were on that trip. And I said, if nothing else, we have to figure out some way of bringing these images, this story, this rebirth story to the people all over the world. Because just read this in the last couple of weeks, I've been so curious in terms of the numbers the numbers of believers that are alive today that are ever going to visit the land of Israel in their lifetime. And so I started doing some research, crunching some numbers and everything, and it's less than 2% of any believer that's alive on the earth today is ever going to set foot in the land of Israel. So they read the Bible and they're connected with the places and the people because they read the Bible, but they're probably not going to be able to actually set foot there in their lifetime. It's like 1.6%. It really shows people that are doing creative work, people that are doing things like what First Fruits of Zion is doing. It really shows the sort of the importance of this call, because we have to bring the land of Israel to the world. We have to connect them in as many ways possible to the land. In the last couple of years, it's been 5 years now, there's been such a separation between the Christian world and the land of Israel, because we've had all these problems. We've had the COVID stuff, we've had the war stuff, we've had the war stuff is continuing. The airlines are stopping flights. They're on, they're off, they're on, they're off. So the amount of Christians, the amount of believers around the world that have actually been there just in the last 5 years, it's very small. It's very, very small. So what happened was, in terms of the I Am Israel story, which continues to be what the brand is all about, that word I Am Israel, that phrase. We spent so much time on that trip in Judea, Samaria, and Jerusalem. We spent so much time behind the green line, so to speak. And all the people that we were meeting with, the world would categorize those people as not Israel. So the Jewish young family that lives in Itamar, the Jewish grandfather that lives in Hebron, the world would say, this is not Israel. This is either the West Bank, or it's part of Jordan, or it's part of some new thing that will exist someday. But this is not Israel. And I saw that as a huge problem, just like you probably do, just like the audience probably does. And so we wanted to make this phrase, I am Israel, this very, very sweet, beautiful, aspirational thing, where individual Jewish people throughout the land, in all of our stories, at the end of their sequences, they look at the camera and the camera pushes in on a dolly shot and they say their name and they say, I am Israel. Because I don't know if that's counterculture. I don't know if that's activism. I don't know what it is, but that's essentially what we're doing in this sweet, emotional, beautiful way. We're showing that according to the God that we serve, these people are Israel, and this is the land of Israel.
Yeah. Yeah, I think film can be a really powerful medium, to bring Israel to people's living rooms and computer screens and tablets, rather than, because not everyone can fly across the ocean to go visit. I mean, some of our listeners may work for a living and may not be able to save up the money, or are aged and cannot travel. So, and the films are beautiful, by the way. I've seen them both. Really gorgeous places, and then, shot very well, very intentionally. Were you like your own location scout?
I guess so. But I mean, the amount of people that I've met over the years in the land is unbelievable. And it's just God's put people in our path, and also given us favor that nobody, gets mad at us. Nobody says, get out of here. Like, he's given us so much favor in terms of all the relationships that we've met. And it's only by the grace of God of all these that's transpired. But Hayavel and also Cry for Zion, two organizations over there, really good friends of mine. And so they've been with me on most of these things that we've done, and helped with in terms of all that. It's also good if you dig. If you can find gorgeous places that exist there, and that's what we try to do, and we try to. We were even doing the mix on this movie. This was like 2 weeks ago, and there's a sequence in the new movie where we tell the story of after the covenant ceremony at Joshua's altar. which is part of the film. We go to Joshua's altar. That the children of Israel began to get their first true look at the land of milk and honey is our line. And we have all these beautiful shots and aerial shots of lush things. And the guy mixing the music in the middle of that scene while we were mixing, he turned to me and he's like, I had no idea Israel was this lush. No idea. And so it's such a simple thing, but I feel like there's some of us that's one of the roles that God has for us right now, is to show the world. People want to go to Hawaii because it's beautiful, the Bahamas because it's beautiful. People want to go to Italy because it's beautiful. And nobody thinks that way about Israel. And I think there's some sort of, there's a maybe an evil reason behind that. I think I think the enemy is trying to separate the world from the land of the Bible.
Yeah. They think that people think it all looks like the Negev out there. But you do have some great footage of the wilderness, the drier area down there where there's when you talk about the trek out of Egypt, which that's cool. That's a cool part of the movie. But I want to get to that in a second. I wanted to ask, did you start filming this after October 7th, or was the project already underway by then?
It was underway. We were actually almost done. October 7th came and we were kind of finalizing some of our audio things, our dialogue and things. Yeah, October. So there's been a lot of, like I said, the last 5 years, really, there's been such a disconnect from the land of Israel from the rest of the world. And I've definitely been affected by that. If you look at our movie 1 or movie 2, essentially every single man in movie 1 or movie 2 was either fighting after October 7th, or they were guarding their communities, professionally, because they'd already been in the idea of guarding their communities or their mountaintops. So everybody's been very, very affected by it. And it's okay. It's slowed down what we were trying to do on a creative level, but it's slowed down everybody, with tourism, with business, with projects. It's slowed everybody down. These films were not a response to October 7th. They're kind of designed to be more timeless. Because the Jew, unfortunately, as everybody knows, the Jewish people, they've always got something. Somebody's always trying to get them all the time.
Yeah.
And so that might be referenced a little bit in the stories that we do, but we haven't gone specific struggles, specific conflicts, and any of the things that we've done.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's smart. You're right. There's always, Israel's always in the news for something. So, to have the evergreen content rather than something that's more a pointed response to a specific current event. Plus, it just takes a long time to make a movie. So you'd have to know about the event like ahead of time. So you mentioned sort of not knowing exactly how to categorize, whether it's activism or something like that. And I think that's an interesting question because like I wondered while I was watching I'm Israel 2, you could be interpreted as essentially like offering to Christians, like, here's what a biblical theology of Israel, like of the theology of the geography looks like. And you should understand the significance of these places in Israel's history and in prophecy in order for you to sort of make sense of your Bible. You could also interpret it as like a political statement saying like, hey, look, we need Jewish sovereignty over the Temple Mount. We need to rebuild the temple, which, that's in some circles quite an inflammatory statement. I don't think it's controversial for our audience, but for some people it would be. But was your intention to sort of do both, or like do you think that sort of defies categorization, or is just sort of like you're saying like here, to make what you want of it?
This subject matter, which is the Temple Mount, biblical Mount Zion, is all throughout the Bible. It's everywhere. There's even hints of it in the Torah itself, in Deuteronomy. So it's everywhere. There is no such thing as a movie about the Temple Mount. This is the first time that anybody's done like an entire story, an entire film that's focused on the Temple Mount. And the way that we've done it, instead of having, essentially have a documentary with talking heads and it's, the only thing we have is B-roll of the Temple Mount, didn't go in that direction at all. We basically tell a story, an adventure story, where we have our it's a documentary, but we have our real guys that go on an expedition to try to discover on a personal level how Jerusalem became Jerusalem and how Mount Zion became established as the mountain of God. So they had this adventure story from the deserts of the Exodus, leading up to the cross, and then go up to where the children of Israel crossed the Jordan River, to Joshua's altar. And we basically track the path of the glory of God, track the path of the Ark of the Covenant until it came to Mount Zion. And so it's supposed to be like a super exciting and emotional adventure story, intercut with Jewish people, Jewish families, Jewish men and women that have some sort of personal connection on a gut level, on a heart level, personal connection to the Temple Mount. And I can go into how the different, we have themes of music, we have themes of prayer, we have themes of the mountain of God being a place of dedication and rededication. We have all these themes. It's crazy, it's I'm not denying it whatsoever, but it is crazy to me that the ability for Jews and Christians to be able to worship God on the Temple Mount is such a controversial thing.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, that's crazy. And as you know, you and I are not allowed to pray on the Temple Mount. It is illegal for you and I to pray on the Temple Mount. It's illegal for any Jew to pray on the Temple Mount. We kind of explore that a little bit on a spiritual level in the movie. Why do you think that is? Why do you personally think that you and I and the entire any Jew who's alive cannot pray on the Temple Mount, cannot worship or sing or anything?
There's a lot of answers to that question. You think about the different types of causes, proximate, ultimate. My tendency when asked a question like that is to default to sort of a Chabad-like answer or like a Breslover type of answer, or it's just like you have to have faith that everything happened, that God is in control of everything, right? So the Roman exile, tragic exile, but these things were brought about by God in order to bring his people back to him in repentance. So if this, when you look at the geopolitical realities of the world, I try to remember that these are things that are not really under the control of human beings, that these are directed by Hashem, and especially the land of Israel, especially in the land of Israel and with the Jewish people. So my thinking would be that it's because this is God's timeline. But why he does stuff, like the specific reasons why he does stuff, there's no prophet I'm aware of right now that's able to tell that to us. We maybe just have to guess. I don't know. What do you think?
It's such an interesting thing. Like we could, like you just did a huge bird's eye view, which is 100% interesting and awesome. And then you could go to all the different, the status quo thing, which is such an on the ground, for practical reasons.
Oh yeah.
We could do this. On another level, I wonder if God is waiting for us to want it bad enough. I wonder if every Jew or Christian, that if we desired so strongly in our hearts to worship God on the Temple Mount, I wonder if that would make an impact. I wonder if that would change things. John Anderson and his father Lars Anderson, who live in Israel, they taught me this, and this is such an interesting prophecy. And this is such an interesting Yeshua said that Jerusalem will be trampled by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles is complete. And so you've got 1948, Israel came back online for the Jewish people. You've got 1967, Jerusalem came back online for the Jewish people. The Temple Mount is not back online. The Temple Mount is in the hands of Gentiles. Jerusalem will be trampled on by the Gentiles until ... And that's essentially where we are right now. And I think that there was, if you do 1948, 1967, both of those moments in time, there was, when Israel and Jerusalem came back online for the Jewish people, there was just this explosion of spiritual activity that happened all over the world. Especially, I think even more so in 67 when Jerusalem came back. All I'm saying is if people had the ability to worship God on the Temple Mount, and if the Jewish people had sovereignty over Mount Zion as they do other parts of Israel, I just wonder what, on a spiritual level, what would happen not only in Israel but throughout the entire world. And I don't know, that's something that we might see in our lifetime. Like that actually could, to be able to worship God on Mount Zion could actually 100% happen in our lifetime.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. And I'd love to go there. I was gonna go to Israel in 2023, and then but the tour was canceled. Due to the war. Like, with all the people that you've met and all the places that you've been over there, what's your sense of the likelihood of this happening? Like, there's the Temple Institute. There's people who want it, but is there enough people who want it that have enough power that there's like a coalition building, or do you think that right now it's kind of a holding pattern?
Things are happening so fast, and it's interesting how Israel might be a little different than the United States. I don't know. The younger generation, the young adults in Israel, are much more conservative and, I guess, observant than their grandparents' generation. And so the numbers of Jews that would ascend the Temple Mount 10 years ago, it was so small. It was just a couple of thousand. And now you'll have on a holiday or on a day of mourning like Tisha B'Av, you'll have maybe as many Jews that would ascend on just one day, that years ago, that was what it was for the entire year. So the numbers are going, are increasing because people are caring more. This is all sort of unfolding in our time. And it's interesting on the Christian side, the amount of fascination around the red heifers on the Christian side is huge, which shows that there is like very, very big interest and fascination with that. And so I feel like we kind of touch about this a little bit in the movie. I feel like for the mountain of God, for Mount Zion to become a house of prayer for all nations. And right now it's a house of prayer for one nation. For it to become a house of prayer for all nations, maybe God wants us to desire that. Maybe God wants us to want it. And if we really have a desire, every trip, every evangelical tour that goes to Israel, if one of the things on their tour is like, we're 100% we're going to the Temple Mount on our tour. I don't know how many trips go, but I think it's more and more and more and more people are God's doing something where there's a desire for that.
Yeah, I hope so. And I think, we think about Jewish prayer and how many times during the liturgy there's this like, and also like, our God and the God of our fathers, please rebuild the temple soon in our days so that we can bring you the offerings that are commanded in the Torah. And, we have, God willing, we have a Siddur, a prayer book that will come out for Gentiles, that instead of saying our God and the God of our forefathers, says our God and the God of Israel. But it's the same prayer. May the temple be rebuilt, the house of prayer for all nations, that we can come and Israel can go and offer the sacrifices, and hopefully part of the journey for me, at least. Part of the journey for me, like from dispensational Christianity into more of a Messianic Judaism, was not just wanting to see the temple rebuilt for some kind of end times yardstick as far as like how far are we away from the rapture or something like that, but because like, well, that is actually what's supposed to be there is the temple. Like it's got like God commanded that to happen, to be built. And, it's meaningful and it does something, like I have some of the commentaries that I have back there, like Ramban's commentary on the Torah, in Rabbeinu Bachya, they talk about like the sacrifices actually do something. It may be hard to describe in words exactly what they do, but they do something, like not just like in a ritual or sort of cultic sense or a sense of ritual purity, but they affect some kind of change on like a spiritual level. And that's, you hear some rabbis will talk about it. Like if everyone knew how much blessing, it would be poured out on not just Israel, but on the world. Solomon has this part, and when he talks, right? He says like, when he's dedicating the temple, he says, if anyone from the nations prays toward this temple, he says he asked that God would answer their prayer. And I forget who it was. Maybe it was like Akiva Tatz or somebody was saying, look, the Jews don't even get that. Like, that's quite a request that Solomon made, to have that temple there, that could be a game changer, like on a spiritual level. People don't think about that. They don't think about the spiritual aspect of like animal sacrifice. They just think like, oh, that's like some kind of barbaric thing from thousands of years ago. But there's something there, I think.
And it's all throughout the Bible, and there's so many stories that we're so familiar with, and we may not even realize that it's either about the Temple Mount or it revolves around the Temple Mount. Like the story you just told about Solomon, and then then God follows it up with, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, then I'll heal their land. And us Americans, we love that verse because it's like, oh yeah, that's what we need to do here. But that's all revolving around the Temple Mount, that promise that God makes, if my people who are called by my name. That's part of that whole Temple Mount dedication story. Before we shot the second one, I just thought it would be helpful for me on a creative level to make a list of everything that Yeshua either said or did on the Temple Mount. And it was really an eye-opening thing, because so many of the stories that we know, we don't really, I didn't connect them to like, oh, this is actually a Temple Mount story. And so that was super, super helpful. One of the things that doesn't exist right now that I wish existed, which I hope exists someday for Christians that visit Jerusalem and they want to go on the Temple Mount. I wish there was a little booth right outside that said, in the footsteps of Jesus on the Temple Mount. And you have a tour guide that just says, this is what Jesus said here, and this is where the apostles were meeting, and this is where Yeshua's brother James would be all the time. I would think that would be a great. And that, of course, because of all the restrictions, of course, that tour doesn't exist. And I hope one day it would, because people would love that. And it would be such a valuable thing to really connect what we believe to this place.
Yeah. It can really cement things to go encounter this stuff with more of your senses than just reading about it in a book. You should read about it in a book, but it's nice. It's different. It's different to actually go and see it and smell it and feel it. Go on a First Fruits of Zion tour of Israel, everybody. Go have a look. Go have a look.
Yeah.
There's one going as we record this. I think we have one over there. We have a tour going on right now. It's worth it. It's worth save your money and go on a tour. And also watch this movie, I Am Israel 2, The Mountain of the King. So like you said, the structure of this film is sort of this Indiana Jones kind of romp. You even have the guy on the horse galloping amongst the landmines. Was that Was that as dangerous as you guys made it sound?
100%.
So we've got a problem. The expedition cannot go forward with the Jeep because we've got mines.
Landmines ahead. We can't continue with the Jeep. That's the last thing you want to do.
Finding the places we need to go in the wilderness isn't always easy. We've come to places where cars are not allowed.
We pull out the maps, we try to figure out our options, and thought, okay, how are we going to do this? We find a relatively safe way to get in on foot, get our shots, and get out. Problem is, besides the fact that you had landmines in one area, you have border police from the Jordanian side on the other end. If we were to do it by foot, it's too slow. You don't want to fall into their hands because basically that means expedition's over.
Going down fully into the southern Jordanian border, that's very problematic. We can't walk in, it's not fast enough. It needs to be a get in and get out situation. As a Tennessee boy, born and raised, granddad taught me how to ride horses at a very young age. I thought, would there be any horses out here? Ends up a friend of a friend had a horse in the moshav right next to where we were. Asked him, said, hey, would it be possible that we could borrow your horse for a few minutes? And he said, sure.
We did not come this far to not get the photographs of the area and really trying to nail this location.
We literally have to get in, get the shots, zip back out. I immediately just saddled her up. The rest is history.
Let's go, yalla yalla.
In our desert sequence in our film, we set up that our characters are going to experience and do experience the same things that the children of Israel experience on their wilderness journey in terms of some of the dangers. But there are things that they did not experience that our guys have to deal with. When one of those things are landmines and border police and all these things that if you make a wrong move, it's a problem, or your expedition can get shut down. And so, yeah, there's, you've probably seen from the entire border going all the way up to the Golan Heights. As soon as you get close to the Jordanian border and also the Egyptian border on the south. But yeah, there's landmines all over the place. So if you're on a certain road and you're okay, but off the road, there's just signs all over the place. Yeah.
Wow.
No, but I wanted to make it. It's all real stuff, and it's a documentary. But I wanted to make it. We've got this helicopter sequence where we fly from the Jordan River crossing all the way up to Joshua's altar, and we're following these footprints that the children of Israel seemingly set up when they came into the land for the first time, because the promise said, everywhere your foot treads, that will be the land that I will give to you. And that's the promise that God had established. And there is this phenomenon of all these different footprints in the desert, and then in some of the more green areas until you get to the mountaintop on Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal. And on Mount Ebal, that's where Joshua's altar is.
Yeah.
And there is a massive, I need to do the math. It's multiple football fields long, a massive footprint that surrounds Joshua's altar. We had IDF protection when we filmed that Joshua's altar sequence up there, because that area is a problem. And so we were protected by the Israeli military in order to capture this stuff. But it's this amazing site, and it's green, it's on a mountaintop, but there's nothing around it. It looks like it would have looked a very long time ago. It's this amazing location. So we have all these real things, and real places and real people in this thing, but it's structured so that the audience, the goal was that the audience would just absolutely love watching the film. It would be entertaining. It would be very emotional. It would be very, very exciting. And we've got horses and Jeeps and helicopters because we got underground Jerusalem things. I was really hoping that there'd be a lot of 10-year-olds that would really, really, really enjoy this, that they could watch this with their parents, watch this with their grandparents, and really connect with Israel, not be bored. So it's really, really fast paced. And that's also one of the reasons we have this huge orchestra. We wanted to do like a John Williams, James Horner, Hans Zimmer type sound to the orchestra. And we just recorded just a few weeks ago. We had this massive orchestral score that our composer is Bob Farnsworth, who worked on, he was my composer on the first movie, done a lot of IMAX movies in his career. And we have, it's just very, very, very lush. And so the adventure things are super, super exciting, sound like Indiana Jones. The emotional sequences sound like maybe like Band of Brothers, the very, very sweet and very emotional. Yeah. So the idea was, you were talking about the landmines, which is absolutely true, but the idea was to make it something that the audience would just absolutely love, that they could watch by themselves, they could watch with their entire families. And then we end the movie after the Temple Mount grand finale, Temple Mount Ascension. We end the movie with an original song that Aaron Schust has written, and it's called The Mountain of the King, and that's our end credits song.
There will come a day when tears are wiped away, and all will hear the voice of gladness. There will come a time when the mountains flow with wine, and the world will hear the voice of bride and groom.
Aaron is a good buddy of mine, and he wrote this original song where he takes all of these prophecies from the Old Testament, from the Tanakh, and all of these promises that God made about Mount Zion, and he's woven all of these prophecies into this song. And the melody of this end credits song, you hear it throughout the entire movie. So by the time you get to the end, you've already heard the melody, and then you hear Aaron singing it with lyrics in it. So I was trying to do like a Top Gun Maverick thing or a Titanic thing, where you're weaving this melody throughout the movie, and then at the end credits, then you end up hearing the full song. And so it's supposed to be. It's there's a lot of good, rich things in the movie that people would enjoy on a spiritual level, but at the same time, we're trying to make it fun. We're trying to make it really sweet and entertaining and emotional as well.
Endures forever. We will sing on the mountain of the King. We will sing on the mountain of the King.
Well, and it's a real movie, like you said. This is to everyone out there listening who's like, "Oh, I've seen these Christian movies before." This is a real movie. I really liked it. I mean, I don't. For anyone out there who may still doubt, you put Gimli in there.
Yeah,
you put Gimli the dwarf in your movie.
Now I love Lord of the Rings, and everybody who's my age calls him Gimli. But we're talking about John Rhys-Davies, our narrator. The Raiders of the Lost Ark is my favorite movie, and so John Rhys-Davies plays Sala in the Raiders movies, and so I at least watch Raiders at least once a year. It's anyway. John Rhys-Davies.
I dressed up as Indiana Jones for Purim with this jacket.
Dude, why? I wish you would have done it for this interview, man. What if both of us dressed up like Indiana Jones for our First Fruits of Zion podcast? We gotta do that.
I can't fit the hat over these headphones. Otherwise,
we could have fake backgrounds. We could have been in Egypt for a bit. Anyway, John Rhys-Davies, he was our narrator for the first one, and it was my dream. I think he's got the best voice. I think he's got the greatest voice, and he's such a great guy at the same time, of course. But I feel like you've got great voices like Walter Cronkite, like Orson Welles, David
Attenborough,
like James Earl Jones. And I feel like John Rhys-Davies is at the exact same level as these amazing voice people. And so he's our narrator for this.
The Hebrews called this place Mount Moriah, the Temple Mount, Mount Zion. It was where Abraham was led to offer up his son, and where God provided a ram in Isaac's place. It was the mountain purchased by King David, and where King Solomon built the house of God, where the Ark of the Covenant was kept, and where the 12 tribes of Israel would worship, where Jesus celebrated the Jewish festivals, and where his first disciples came to pray. Conquered in war by the Babylonians and Persians, Greeks and Romans, Crusaders and Muslims, it is the most fought-over mountain in the history of the world. But the ancient prophets of Israel wrote of a different destiny for this place, a future that many believe is unfolding in our time.
And it's such a joy to work with John Rhys-Davies. If he might do a line of dialogue 3 different times, 3 different ways, all 3 are unbelievable, and then you just have to decide as the director, okay, which one do we want to use? Like, because they're all different and they're all unbelievable. So yeah, it's cool, especially in this one, because we do talk a lot more about the Ark of the Covenant in this second movie and the Jewish thought, the Jewish position on where the Ark is today. We go into that in this movie. So to have our narrator, who was one of the leads from Raiders of the Lost Ark, talk about the location of the Ark, is really, really great. I
got goosebumps.
Callbacks, to that.
It was so good. It was so good. How did you get him? Does he just do stuff for people who ask him?
I don't know. I mean, it's maybe the entertainment world, maybe Hollywood has changed the way it was from decades ago. But yeah, just contacted his manager with the first one, sent him the trailer and the movie. And then with the second one, we already had a working relationship. So they were like, great, let's do it. When are we going to do the third one? And I was like, I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah, and also cool. Movie 1, John recorded in New Zealand, and we did it through modern technology. Movie 2, he recorded on the Isle of Man, and we were able to record through modern technology. So
is that just wherever he happens to be, there's a recording studio?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
he's on vacation and beautiful locations, and he's like, oh yeah, there's a place here to record voiceover. Wow.
I think he's the best, and he adds so much. In a sense, he adds some gravitas and credibility to our story.
Yeah, he's a real actor. Like I don't know, like to me, in my mind, he's an A-lister, like he's amazing. So yeah, that was cool. And
it goes back to that old Hollywood style of having a great voice, and I think audiences love that. I think there's a lot of stuff that they don't really do anymore in a lot of modern Hollywood things, and one of those is not being embarrassed about like having a great voice or a great Shakespearean type sound when you're talking about some of these exciting, adventurous things. So that's what we tried to do. Yeah. I think the audience really enjoys hearing him throughout narrating the story of the land,
I loved it. I couldn't get enough. I think the same thing has happened. This is here in Nashville. I'll say this. I think the same thing is happening in music. You think back to a guy like Sinatra or whatever, this rich, full sort of voice. And now, like, whether it's worship music or whether it's like pop music, like all the men are altos. They're all singing like girls.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I can't, and I'm the worship leader at my church. So I'm hearing these songs. I'm like, I could put in years of training, I guess, but like
dude, you're so true. At what Bing Crosby is another one. Like you never have any Christian artists that sound like Bing Crosby.
Exactly. Like where's all the testosterone gone?
Right.
But yeah, I loved seeing John Rhys-Davies in there. Well, not seeing, but hearing. Hey, just wanted to take a second here to remind you that when you like, comment, and subscribe, YouTube is more likely to recommend this video to other people. And the more the channel grows, the bigger our platform gets, giving more people the opportunity to hear how the Jewish Jesus is changing lives across the globe. So please smash that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel. these little steps have a big impact in spreading the message of the Jewish Jesus and his kingdom to as large an audience as possible. Thanks. So I have a couple more questions. I want to, you're making these incredible films. What are you hoping, like, and just, feel free to like shoot for the moon here, but like, what are you hoping people take away from this? Like, who are you hoping will see this, and what are you hoping will happen as a result of them watching it?
Yeah, thanks. We have different reasons for movie 1, movie 2. We also have, our coffee table book for the first movie. We have this thick coffee table book that is sort of like a great accompaniment to the movie number 1, which goes so much into depth. But it's sort of different. I think every artist that's doing filmmaking, writing books, doing music, every artist wants to change the world on some level. And we might say, oh no, like this is art for art's sake. Like, no, I don't believe that. Like every artist is trying to do something to make an impact in a certain way.
Yeah.
With the second movie, I can go into the first one, but if you want, but with the second movie, my objective is very, very clear. And it was from the before the first day we started shooting, which was, I hope the audience, after watching I Am Israel, the Mountain of the King, has a strong desire in their heart to worship God on the Temple Mount. It has nothing to do with tearing anything down and rebuilding anything. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with, I really hope that the audience, after watching movie number 2, will say, wow, there's a lot of connections I didn't make that from the Bible about this place, about the center of Jerusalem, about Mount Zion. And I really hope that they have a strong desire to pray, to sing, to be present, physically present on Mount Zion, on the Temple Mount itself. With movie 1, and there's elements in both movies in terms of other objectives, I really wanted to showcase real life Jewish people, men and women, who believe in God, who talk about God, who believe that God has planted them in the land of Israel for a certain reason, for biblical reasons. I think one of the separations that the enemy is doing is that they're separating the Christian world and the Jewish world. And you've covered this recently. There's this crazy thing that's going on in a very small, God willing, sect of Christianity where they just can't stand Jews right now. They just, we're going to be so public. We're going to make podcasts. We're going to go on Twitter and whatever, and we're going to talk everything that and I hate that. And I hope that's a very, very small sect of.
Yeah. Let's hope that doesn't get legs.
Yeah. Oh, I hate it. But I think one of the, what can the artist do? What can the artist do to try to solve this problem? And I think one of the things is, what we've tried to do is to showcase the land and introduce people to Jewish men and women who are living in the land, who are essentially a living, breathing evidence of the promises of God, things that God talked about in Deuteronomy, and of course throughout all the prophets are unfolding in front of our very eyeballs. And so for whether it could be people of any age that could watch our films and really grasp that and get to on camera meet these individual Jewish people. But I think it's also especially good for young people, for young people to do that. And it's it's also crazy. It's like there's so many in terms of our roles. If you're a Jew or you're a Gentile, like what does the Bible say is some of our roles? And I feel like the Gentile believer has a important role in terms of being able to help build up Israel, build up the Jewish people on all kinds of levels, but also to be able to show the world the true story of Israel as a Gentile. Because if I was a Jew and I was doing these movies and these books and everything we do, and I was a Jew, people would be like, well, of course he's doing all this stuff. He's Jewish. Of course he is. Like, why would you expect anything else? That's his people. But those are not my people on a bloodline level. Those are not, because I'm a Gentile. On a Ruth level, of course, those are my people. Like your people will be my people. So on a Ruth level, I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about, I'm not a Jew, I'm a Gentile. And so to be able to be to be able to advocate for the land and for the people, and to try to get that out into the world, people think about it differently because I'm not Jewish, And Aaron Schust is the same way, because Aaron Schust is a Gentile, just like me. And so maybe people think we're Jewish. I don't know. But it's a good role that God has essentially established for the nations to be able to try to come and support the Jewish people, because we can do it in a different way than if we were Jewish, Yeah.
That's the miracle that James perceived in Acts 15, right? The prophecy of David's fallen tent being raised up, and there's these Gentiles that are called by God's name, and James is like, look, this is a sign, like it's a prophetic sign when Gentiles attach themselves to Israel, and we're seeing it again now. The church took a little break of attaching itself to Israel. Got kind of a big head there and said, "Oh, we're the new Israel," but people have come back around, and they're realizing the prophetic significance of Israel and of being a Gentile that supports Israel, and that's the team you want to be on if you want to all the good things the Bible says will happen to people that happen to you.
I think a lot of the Christian ministries and the Christian creative things that are going on out there, I think a lot of people don't realize the impact that they're having on a positive level throughout the world, because this whole genre that's all of a sudden popped up in the last year and a half of all of like Christians making content that's anti-Israel, that really wasn't a genre a couple of years ago. Like people doing podcasts and all these anti-Israel tweets that sort of semi-influential people are having. That really wasn't a thing up until recently. And I think on a spiritual level, I think people like you guys, like First Fruits of Zion, and other people that are doing music, other people that are doing books, other people that have their own shows, maybe they don't realize the positive impact that they're having throughout the Christian world, because some of this anti-junk that's happening, I think, is a response to people throughout the whole Christian world wanting to come alongside the Jewish people and do whatever they can in order to support the land and support the people, and also connect on a connecting on all of these biblical things that we've kind of been disconnected from through all these years. Anyway, I feel like there's so many things going on a spiritual level right now.
Yeah. And you're right. I don't remember seeing this kind of trash on social media, really before October 7th, it doesn't seem like. And the explosion of content, I don't know how much more like people and how much more interest there necessarily is in this the new anti-Zionism that's out there. I call them the new Crusaders, and in my article on the subject, which will be in the next print edition of Messiah magazine, and is available online for all of you out there to read now. Some of what they're doing, they're just haters. Like they're just haters, and they found the classic people that people end up hating, which is they became anti-Semites. Well, anyway, yeah, we're trying to be the vaccine or the antidote to all of this anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. And God willing, I mean, we know who's going to win in the end. God tells us who's going to win, but okay, He wins. Well, how can people watch the film? It's coming out on May 25th. It's called I Am Israel, the Mountain of the King. Where can people watch this when it comes out?
Yeah, IamIsraelFilm.com. And if you just Google I Am Israel anywhere on on any social media as well. You'll find us right away. But yeah, if people want to celebrate Jerusalem Day by watching the movie or having a party and inviting people over, we've got digital downloads. We've got everything. We've got digital, we've got DVD, we've got Blu-ray. But a digital version, you get the thing right away, and you can throw a party and you can celebrate Jerusalem Day. But the plan is to not only release, but also to begin to roll out into congregations all over the world. The first film has played in 10, 11, 12,000 congregations throughout the world. And this one, God willing, will also be valuable for a lot of churches all over the world. So that's part of our goal for this year.
Yeah. I would say it's longer and it's even better. I liked it even better. It's very
thanks.
good.
Thanks.
Yeah. The first one was good, but the second one was better, even if only for the reason that there's more of it.
I hope people will enjoy both, because I feel like for people there's I mean, let me ask you, I think it's important, especially if it's an introduction to the land and the people, but let me ask you this is a crazy question, but if you ask a regular educated Christian audience what the Temple Mount is, do you think they would know? Or do you think a lot of the stuff in movie number 2 is going to be like really new information?
Oh, that's a good question. I grew up dispensationalist.
Okay.
So, it's hard to surprise me with Israel stuff, although it's possible. But just the regular folks out there, just someone who maybe has not delved into the whatever theology of their denomination or church, like so much necessarily to where they're tweeting about it. I don't know. I think there probably is going to be a lot of new stuff. There were things in the movie that I didn't know about. I didn't know about those footprints. Like, those were cool. So yeah, I think probably everyone who watches the movie will learn something, and there's probably a lot of people who will learn a lot. So I think that everyone should go see it.
Okay.
I think everyone should go see. Yeah, I think you did a good job. I think there's a lot of cool stuff there. There's a lot of just like cool stuff, and I think the message is good too. Like, we should be like, I mean, we should probably face that direction when we pray. Like, that's serious.
Right.
We should probably look toward the Temple Mount when we pray, even though the temple is not there. That's what Jesus would have done, and the apostles. I am Israel, the mountain of the King. May 25th. Have a watch party. Go. Tell your pastor about it. Have a watch party at your house. Watch the film. It's good. I have one more question. I just learned today, because I don't get involved I don't have my fingers in every pot here at First Fruit Design. I just learned today that you are in a Torah club, and Torah club is for those out there who don't know, Torah club is our small group Bible study program, and you're in one. How do you like it? How has it been for you?
I love y'all's stuff. So I've been in Torah club for years here in Nashville, and we've got a great Torah club. Everybody's trying to change the world in our Torah club. We're doing all kinds of things. But I've read y'all's. I've been to the Brahms Center. I've read your materials for years. In fact, I love all of the content that you guys put out, including I listen to your podcast all the time. But when I started researching to really for this movie about the Temple Mount, I wanted to get as much information as I could, especially why this matters to Christians. Is this still relevant or not? The Temple Mount, Mount Zion. So the two massive commentary sets that you guys have, which cover the Gospels and which cover the Apostles, I got both of those sets and love those. Regardless of what I'm studying, absolutely love those commentary sets. But I also wanted to go through both of those sets and find every single Temple Mount story. I was especially interested in also the James story, the brother of Yeshua story, what the legends and history and traditions were once he was essentially the head of the believing community in Jerusalem, and what their practices were on the Temple Mount, where they met on the Temple Mount. And so I loved going through the FFOZ content of all the history of that.
Yeah, Dan did a great job, with the imagery and just describing like what it would have looked like, what the temple looked like, and what it would have been like to be there. And he just fleshes it out so beautifully. Those are some fantastic commentaries. Very good, very good. Well, is there anything else you want to tell the audience today, David?
Next year in Jerusalem, is that what you're supposed to say? I hope everybody in the audience, I hope all of us are able to get back to the land, whether it's the first time you've gone or whether it's not. I hope everybody listening to this, I hope things improve on a dramatic level very, very soon, and we can all get reconnected big time with the land of Israel and the Jewish people again.
Amen and amen. Yeah, I'd like to go back. I haven't been in 30 years. Love to go. All right. Well, his name is David Kiern, and the movie is I Am Israel, The Mountain of the King, out on May 25th. David, thanks for joining us today on the podcast. Well, thanks for joining us today on Messiah Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review along with a 5-star rating. If you want to learn more about the Jewish Jesus, create a free account at ffoz.org and start studying the scriptures from a Messianic Jewish perspective. We'll even give you a free book. Messiah Podcast is made possible by the generosity of our First Fruits of Zion friends. FFOZ friends are people like you who partner with us in our mission to reconcile disciples of Yeshua with God's prophetic promises to Israel. Tune in next time for more great conversations. Until then, I'm Jacob Franzek. Shalom.
Let his word cover you and me, like the waters cover the sea. Let his love cover you and me, like the waters cover the sea.